Hey everybody. So let's go ahead today and finish Act 3. So our last couple of videos, we've gotten Romeo and Juliet married. Romeo had it and still figures out that, she loves Romeo. Romeo is upset that he's being kicked out of town. He's being banished from Verona. Friar Lawrence comes up with an idea, and where we're going to be sent essentially is Friar Lawrence tells Romeo, go to Juliet, be gone by the morning, go to this nearby town called Mantua. Hang out there until I have the time to figure some stuff out and bring you back. And we're going to start seeing today how these plans start falling apart. That's the biggest thing with once we're about the halfway point, which we're past the halfway point of Romeo and Juliet now, things start falling apart. Things start falling apart in pretty interesting ways. So today, that's what we're going to cover. So let's go ahead and get into our text here. All right. So we're going to start with Act 3, Scene 4. This is a very quick scene, but some very interesting stuff happens in this scene. So Capulet, Lady Capulet, and Paris are all together. And Capulet says, things have fallen out, sir, so unluckily that we've had no time to move our daughter. Look you, she loved her kinsman Tybalt dearly, and so did I. Well, we are born to die. 'Tis very late, she'll not come down tonight. I promise you, but for your company, I would have been in bed an hour ago. So Capulet's like, sorry, things have turned out terribly. And we haven't had time to even talk to Juliet about marrying. She loved Tybalt. I did too. And he says, it's very late. She's not coming down tonight. And honestly, if you weren't here, I'd have went to bed now. So Paris says, these times of woe afford no time to woo. So, these painful times are bad times to try to be romantic. Madam, good night. Commend me to your daughter. So, he's good night, Lady Capulet. Give my regards to your daughter. Tell your daughter I said hello. And Lady Capulet says, I will. And know her mind tomorrow. Tonight she's mewed up to her heaviness. So she's like, I will, and I'll tell you, we'll find out what she thinks about all this tomorrow. Tonight, her sadness is too much. And Capulet says, Sir Paris, I will make a desperate tender of my child's love. I think she'll be ruled in all respects by me. Nay, more, I doubt it not. Wife, go you to her ere you go to bed. Acquaint her here of my son Paris's love, and bid her mark you me on Wednesday next. But soft, what day is this? Monday, my lord. Monday! Ha ha! Well, Wednesday's too soon. Oh, Thursday let it be. Oh, Thursday tell her she shall be married to this noble earl. Will you be ready? Do you like this haste? We'll keep no great ado, a friend or two. For hark you, Tybalt being slain so late, it may be thought we held him carelessly, being our kinsman, if we revel much. Therefore we'll have some half a dozen friends, and there be an end. What say you to Thursday? So Capulet's like, you know what? I'm going to make an argument for my daughter's love. And I think that she'll do whatever I say. In fact, you know what? I have no doubt about it. Wife, before you go to bed, tell her that Paris loves her, and that on Wednesday, and then he's like, wait, what day is it? And Paris is like, it's Monday. And he goes, oh, well, Wednesday's way too soon. Thursday. So Thursday, tell her she will be married to Paris. And then he asked Paris, he's like, is this fine? Or do you think it's too quick? He's like, listen, it's only going to be, we're not going to make it a big deal, only a friend or two, because Tybalt just died, and we don't want to make it seem like we didn't care for it. So we can't have a big party. So it'll be like 6 of us, and that'll be fine. What do you think about Thursday? And Paris says, my lord, how would that Thursday were tomorrow? He's like, well, I wish tomorrow were Thursday then. And Capulet says, well, get you gone. Oh, Thursday be it then. Go you to Juliet ere you to bed. Prepare her, wife, against this wedding day. Farewell, my lord. Light my chamber, ho, afore me. It is so very late that we may call it early by and by. Good night. And he leaves. So he's like, absolutely, great. Thursday it is. Wife, go tell Juliet before you go to bed. Get her ready for the wedding day. We've all got to go to bed. It's so late that we might as well call it early. And they all leave. So remember, only 4 people know that Romeo and Juliet are married. Romeo and Juliet, the nurse, and Friar Lawrence. So Lord Capulet has just decided, even though yesterday, just yesterday, he was like, let's wait 2 years before Juliet gets married. Now he's like, it's Monday, let's get her married Thursday. So that's where we're at now. Capulet has made plans for Juliet to be married. So let's go ahead to scene 5. Now, scene 5 opens on Tuesday morning. So this is Tuesday morning. Romeo has been in Juliet's room all night, and we wake up with them. Juliet says, wilt thou be gone? Romeo's starting to get up. Wilt thou be gone? It's not yet near day. It was the nightingale and not the lark that pierced the fearful hollow of thine ear. Nightly she sings on yon pomegranate tree. Believe me, love, it was the nightingale. So Juliet's telling you hear the birds sing. And Juliet's like, don't get up, don't leave. That was the nightingale. That's the birds that sing at night, not the lark, the bird that sings in the morning. And Romeo says, it was the lark, the herald of the morn, no nightingale. Look, love, what envious streaks do lace the silvering clouds in yonder east. Night's candles are burnt out, and jocund day stands tiptoe on the misty mountain top. I must be gone and live, or stay and die. So he's like, no, that was the lark, that was the dawn birds. Look, you can see the sunlight streaking through the clouds in the east. Night's over, day's coming. I have to leave if I'm going to live. If I stay, I'll die. And Juliet says, yon light is not daylight, I know it. It is some meteor the sun exhales, to be thee this night a torchbearer, and light thee on thy way to Mantua. Therefore stay yet, thou needst not be gone. So she's like, that's not daylight, I know it isn't. That's a meteor. That's a meteor or a comet that's there to light the sun, light your way to Mantua. You don't have to leave yet. And Romeo says, let me be ta'en. Let me be put to death. I am content so that thou wilt have it so. I'll say yon gray is not morning's eye, but 'tis the pale reflex of Cynthia's brow. Nor that is not the lark, whose notes do beat the vaulty heaven so high above our heads. I have more care to stay than will to go. Come, death, and welcome. Juliet wills it so. How is it, my soul? Let's talk. It is not day. So he's like, you know what? If you say it's not morning, it's not morning. I'll say that the light is the reflection of the moon. You know what? I'll stay here. I want to stay here more than I want to go. You know what? Come on, death. Bring it on. Juliet wills it so. And now Juliet realizes what's happening. And she says, it is. Hi, hence, be gone, away. It is the lark that sings so out of tune, straining harsh discords and unpleasant sharps. Some say the lark made sweet division. This doth not so, for she divideth us. Some say the lark and low toad changed eyes. Oh, now I would they changed voices too, since arm from arm that voice doth us affray. Hunting thee hence with hunts up to the day. Oh, now be gone, more light and light it grows. And Romeo says, more light and dark our woes. So she's saying, you realize it's like, oh no, that is the lark. It is daylight. And, saying like, they say that the lark, the music makes sweet, her song makes sweet division between day and night. But this isn't sweet because the division, the separation it's making is between us. So I wish that, like, I don't want to go. You need to leave. It's getting more and more light. And Romeo says, the more and more light it is, the more and more dark our woes, our sorrows, our pain. And the nurse comes into the room. Madam, nurse, your lady mother is coming to your chamber. The day is broke. Be wary. Look about. So the nurse is like, your mom's coming. It's daylight. Get out of here. Be careful. And the nurse leaves. And the nurse says, then window, let day in and let life out. So, let the day in and let my life out, because Romeo has to leave through her window. And Romeo says, farewell, farewell, one kiss and I'll descend. So they kiss, and Romeo begins to go down the ladder from Juliet's room. And Juliet, while she's looking kind of down at him, art thou gone so, love, Lord? I, husband, friend, I must hear from thee every day in the hour. For in a minute there are many days. Oh, by this count I shall be much in years ere again I behold my Romeo. So she's like, I have to hear from you every hour, because like in a minute there are many days. She's like, every minute I'm waiting to hear back from you and that I'm apart from you, it's like there are days in between. And then by that case, I'm going to be so much older before I get to see you again. And Romeo says, farewell. I will omit no opportunity that may convey my greetings, love, to thee. So he's like, I'm not going to miss any chance that I can to tell you how much I love you. And she says, oh, thinkst thou we shall ever meet again? She's like, do you think we'll ever see each other again? And Romeo says, I doubt it not. And all these woes shall serve for sweet discourses in our time to come. He's like, absolutely, we're going to see each other again. And all this stuff, it's just going to be like stories to tell each other later in life, the stuff we look back on. And Juliet's looking down at him. She's on her balcony looking down. And she says, oh God, I have an ill divining soul. Methinks I see thee now. Thou art so low as one dead in the bottom of a tomb. Either my eyesight fails, or thou lookst pale. So he sees her, or she sees him, and she goes, I just had a terrible thought. I'm seeing you now, me on top and looking down at you. It's like you're at the bottom of a grave. And either my eyesight's failing or you look pale. She sees him dead, essentially. It's like she's feeling bad because the way it's kind of like making her think about looking down on him in a grave. And Romeo says, entrust me, love, in my eyes, so do you. Dry sorrow drinks our blood. Adieu, adieu. So it's like, you look pale to me too. The sadness in us is taking away the color in our skin. And he leaves. Now, the next time Romeo and Juliet are in the same room, they die. So Juliet seeing this and Romeo seeing her as pale and Juliet seeing him looking down like it's in a grave, the next time these two see each other, they will die. So Romeo leaves. And in comes Juliet. Or, Juliet's there, still left. Oh, fortune, fortune. Fortune is like fate. It says here luck, but no, fortune is like fate. All men call thee fickle. If thou art fickle, what dost thou with him? That is renowned for faith. Be fickle, fortune for them. I hope thou wilt not keep him long, but send him back. So she's like, they say that fortune can't make up its mind, fate can't make up its mind. Well, if that's the case, then what are you going to do with Romeo? Change your mind. Send him back to me. So Lady Capulet's starting to come into the room. "Ho, daughter, are you up?" And Juliet says, "Who is that calls? Is it my lady mother? Is she not down so late or up so early? What unaccustomed cause procures her hither?" So she's like, "Is she up very late or is she like up very early? Like, which is the case here? It's weird that she's here this early." And in comes Lady Capulet. "Why, how now, Juliet?" She's like, "How is everything?" And Juliet says, "Madam, I'm not well." Of course, that could be taken, and our multiple characters take this multiple different ways. Juliet is not happy because she's just let Romeo away. She doesn't know when she's going to see him again. But of course, Lady Capulet, "Oh, well, you must not be good because Tybalt's dead." And even then, that's the next thing that Lady Capulet says. "Evermore weeping for your cousin's death? What, wilt thou wash him from his grave with tears? And if thou couldst not make him lie. Therefore have done. Some grief shows much of love, but much of grief still shows some want of wit." So she's like, "Are you trying to wash him out of his grave with your tears? Because even if you did, you couldn't make him come back to life. So stop crying. Having some grief shows you have love, but having a lot of grief, too much of it, makes you look stupid." Now it's kind of sad because this is literally the next day. It's not even 24 hours after Tybalt is dead, and Lady Capulet's already like, "What are you crying for? Get over this." And Juliet says, "Yet let me weep for such a feeling of loss." So she's like, "Let me weep for the loss." And Lady Capulet says, "So shall you feel the loss, but not the friend which you weep for." So she's saying, like, you're crying for the loss, but the man that you're crying about, he's not going to feel anything. Juliet says, "Feeling so the loss cannot choose, but ever weep the friend." So she's like, the loss that I feel, I can't help but cry for him forever. Hey, Capulet says, "Well, girl, thou weepest not so much for his death, as that the villain lives that slaughtered him." So Lady Capulets like, "Well, clearly you're not crying so much because Tybalt died. You're crying because the guy that killed him is still alive." And Juliet says, "What villain, madam?" And Lady Capulet says, "That same villain, Romeo." And Juliet kind of says off to herself under her breath, "Villain and he be many miles asunder." It's like, oh, he's far from being a villain. So we can look at it as she's saying it under her breath. On the stage, when it says aside, if we were watching this as a play, she would kind of turn away from the rest of the actors and say it to the crowd. And she says back to her mother, "God pardon him, I do with all my heart, and yet no man like he doth grieve my heart." And she says, "Well, I hope God pardons him, because I have with all my heart. And no man can make me grieve. No man can make me like feel bad as much as he does." Lady Capulet says, "That is because the traitor murderer lives." Juliet says, "Aye, madam. From the reach of these my hands would none but I might venge my cousin's death." So, she's kind of playing into this a little bit, but she's also saying, like, yes, he's beyond my reach. Like, I'm upset because Romeo's out of my reach. But then she also is like, because I wish that nobody could avenge my cousin's death but me. And Lady Capulet says, "We will have vengeance for it, fear thou not. Then weep no more. I'll send to one in Mantua, where that same banished runagate doth live. Shall give him such an unaccustomed dram that he shall soon keep Tybalt company, and then I hope thou wilt be satisfied." So she's like, "Don't worry about it. We're going to have revenge. I'm going to send somebody to Mantua that's going to poison Romeo, and he'll join Tybalt in death. And at that point, I hope you'll be satisfied." And Juliet says, indeed, I shall never be satisfied with Romeo till I behold him. Dead is my poor heart for a kinsman vexed. So she's like, I'm never going to be satisfied until I can hold Romeo. I mean, hold his dead body. Because is my poor heart for a kin. Oh, madam, if you could find out but a man to bear a poison, I would temper it. That Romeo should, upon receipt thereof, soon sleep in quiet. Oh, how my heart abhors to hear him named, and cannot come to him. To wreak the love I bore my cousin upon this body that slaughtered him. So she's like, I wish if you could find somebody that's got the poison, I'll mix it and take it myself. Because I can't hear people say his name. I can't stand to hear people say his name without being able to go after him. And then, of course, she has to kind of throw in, because I want to take care of the guy that killed my cousin. Lady Capulet says, find thou the means, and I'll find such a man. But now I tell thee joyful tidings, girl. So Lady Capulet's like, well, you figure out how to do that, and I'll find the guy. But I've got good news for you. And Juliet says, and joy comes well in such a needy time. What are they, beseech your ladyship? So she's like, good news is great in such a terrible time. What's the news? And Lady Capulet says, well, thou hast a careful father child, one who, to put thee from thy heaviness, hath sorted out a sudden day of joy that thou expected not, nor I looked for, or I looked not for. So she's like, well, you've got a really good father, and he's decided to arrange a day of joy because you're so sad. And it's a day that he didn't even expect, and you didn't expect, and I didn't either. And Juliet says, madam, in happy time, what day is it? So she's like, oh, tell me, what's going on? And Lady Capulet says, marry my child, early next Thursday morn, the gallant, young, and noble gentleman, the county Paris, at St. Peter's Church shall make thee there a joyful bride. So she's like, early on Thursday morning, Paris is going to marry you. And Juliet says, now by St. Peter's Church and Peter too, he shall not make me there a joyful bride. I wonder at this haste that I must wed ere he that should be husband comes to woo. I pray you tell my lord and father, madam, I shall not marry yet. And when I do, I swear it shall be Romeo, who you know I hate, rather than Paris. These are news indeed. So she's like, oh, I swear by Peter and Peter's Church that I will not marry Paris on Thursday. I can't believe that there's like this rush. I'm going to marry him before he even shows up to try to court me, to try to woo me. I'll tell you this, if I am going to get married, I'd rather marry Romeo first. Of course, she's already married to Romeo. But then she's like, you know how much I hate Romeo, and I'd rather marry him than Paris. And of course, Lady Capulet knows that Lord Capulet is coming. She's like, here comes your father. Tell him so yourself and see how he will take it at your hands. She's like, you let him know what you just said to me. And Capulet and the nurse come in. When the sun sets, the air doth drizzle dew, but for sunset of my brother's son it rains downright. How now? A conduit girl? What, still in tears, evermore showering? In one little body thou counterfeitest a bark, a sea, a wind. For still thy eyes, which I may call the sea, do ebb and flow with tears. The bark thy body is, sailing in this salt flood. The wind thy sighs, who raging with thy tears, and they with them, without a sudden calm will overset. Thou tempest-tossed body, how now, wife? Have you delivered to her our decree? So he sees the girl and he's like, you're still crying? It's like, I swear, it's like in your little body is a ship and a sea and the winds, and it's like you're crying a storm. Your eyes are feeling the sea, and your sighs are the wind, and the ship is your body just on here. And unless you calm down, your tears are going to sink the ship that is your body. Again, This guy died less than 24 hours ago. They all claim to love him. And twice now, her parents have come up and said, you're still crying about this? So then he asked his wife, it's like, all right, wife, did you tell her our plan? And Lady Capulet says, aye, sir, but she will none. She says, give you thanks. I would the fool were married to her grave. So Lady Capulet says, yes, sir, I told her. But she said no. She said to thank you, but no. And then she says, I wish the fool were married to her grave. She's like, I wish the little girl were dead. Loving parents. And Capulet says, soft, take me with you. Take me with you, wife. How? Will she none? Does she not give us thanks? Is she not proud? Does she not count her blessed, unworthy as she is, that we have wrought so worthy a gentleman to be her bride? So he's like, oh, I don't understand. Like, take me with you. She refuses? She's not proud. She's not grateful. She's not blessed that we found her as unworthy as she is, so worthy a gentleman to marry her? And Juliet says, not proud you have, but thankful you have. Proud can I never be of what I hate, but thankful even for hate that is meant love. So she's like, I'm proud that you found him for me, but I'm not thankful for it. I can't be proud and thankful of something that I hate, but at least I can look at it and see that even though I hate it, you meant it with love. And Capulet says, how? Chopped logic, what is this? Proud, and I thank you, and I thank you not, and yet not proud? Mistress Minion you, thank me no thankings, nor proud me no prouds, but fiddle your fine joints gets Thursday next to go with Paris to St. Peter Church, or I will drag thee on a hurdle thither. Out, you green sickness carrion, out, you baggage, you tallow face. So Capulet's mad, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna sit here and listen to your prouds and not prouds and thank yous, but no thank yous, you little spoiled girl." He's like, you know what? You better get yourself ready because Thursday you're going to church to marry him, and if you don't go your own, I'll drag you. And he's like, you green sickness, like you carrion, you baggage. He's like just calling her names now. And Lady Capulet's, of course, like, fie, what? Are you mad? She's like, no shame on you. Are you crazy calling her this? And Juliet says, good father, I beseech you on my knees, hear me with patience, but to speak a word. So, she's like, I'm sorry, father, like, I'm on my knees begging you, please let me say something, listen to me. And Capulet says, hang thee, young baggage, disobedient wretch. I'll tell thee what, get thee to church a Thursday, or never look me in the face. Speak not, reply not, do not answer me. My fingers itch. Wife, we scarce thought us blessed that God hath lent us but only this child. But now I see thee one is too much. I see this one is one too much, and that we have a curse in having her. Out on her, Hydlin. So he's kind of like, you worthless girl, you disobedient girl. I'll tell you what, on Thursday, you get to church or never look me in the face again. Do not say anything. Don't reply. Do not talk back to me. And he says, my fingers itch. And it's basically, he's like pulling his hand back. He's like, I'd slap the crap out of you. He's angry here. And then he tells his wife, it's like, we thought that we were blessed because God gave us this one. But you know what? This one's a curse. And the nurse says, God in heaven bless her. You were to blame, my lord, to rate her so. And the nurse is like, oh, dear God, like, bless her. Like, you're terrible for saying this. And Capulet says, and why, my lady wisdom? Hold your tongue. Good prudence. Smatter with your gossip. Go. So he's like, you shut up, old woman. And he kind of says lady wisdom. He's like, oh, you're the wise woman that I'm supposed to listen to? Hold your tongue. Shut up. Get out of here. And the nurse says, I spake no treason. She's like, I didn't say anything wrong. And Capulet says, oh, God, I good in. He's like, oh, get out of here, for God's sake. And the nurse says, may not one speak? He's like, can I say something? And Capulet says, peace, you mumbling fool. Utter your gravity o'er a gossip bowl, for here we need it not. He's like, now you shut up. We do not need your gossip and anything that you've got to say here. And Lady Capulet says, you are too hot. She's like, you're getting way too angry. And he says, God's bread, it makes me mad. Day, night, hour, tide, time, work, play, alone, in company. Still my care hath been to have her matched. And now having provided a gentleman of noble parentage, of fair demesnes, youthful and nobly trained, stuffed, as they say, with honorable parts, proportioned as one's thought would wish a man. And then to have a wretched, puling fool, a whining mammon, and her fortunes tender to answer, I'll not wed, I cannot love, I'm too young, I pray you pardon me. But an you will not wed, I'll pardon you. Graze where you will, you shall not house with me. Look to it, think on it. I do not use to jest. Thursday is near. Lay hand on heart, advise. And you be mine, I'll give you to my friend. But you be not hang, beg, starve, die in the streets. For by my soul, I'll ne'er acknowledge thee, nor what is mine shall never do thee good. Trust to it, bethink you, I'll not be forsworn. So he's like, all this time, day and night, and all this time, I've worked to make certain that when she marries, she'll marry somebody good. And here I show up with somebody noble, somebody who has everything one could imagine you would want in a man. And she answers me, I'm not going to marry him. I can't love him. I'm too young. And I tell you what, if you go against me, you're not going to live with me. I'm going to kick you out. So you need to look on it. You need to think on it, because I'm not kidding. Thursday's just a couple days away. And if you're mine, I'll give you to my friend. But if not, if you're not going to go through with this, then you can hang, you can beg, you can starve, and you can die in the streets for all I care, because I'll never acknowledge you again. And what's mine will never help you. Think about it, because this is a promise I've made, and I'm not going to break it. And Juliet says, or Capulet leaves. So Capulet leaves, and Juliet turns to her mother. Is there no pity sitting in the clouds that sees into the bottom of my grief? Oh, sweet my mother, cast me not away. Delay this marriage for a month, a week. Or, if you do not, make the bridal bed in that dim monument where Tybalt lies. And she says, talk not to me, for I'll not speak a word. Do as thou wilt, for I have done. So Juliet says, can't you see into this, my sadness? She's like, mother, don't throw me out. Put this marriage off for a month, a week. Or if you're not going to delay it, go ahead and make the wedding bed in the tomb where Tybalt lies. Because I'd rather die than this happen. And Lady Capulet says, don't talk to me. I'm not going to say a word to you or to your father. Do as you please, because I'm done with you. And Lady Capulet leaves. And Juliet turns to the nurse. Oh God. Oh nurse, how shall this be prevented? My husband is on earth, my faith in heaven. How shall that faith return to earth again? Unless that husband send it me from heaven by leaving earth. Comfort me, counsel me. Alack, alack, that heaven should practice stratagems upon so soft a subject as mine. What sayest thou? Hast thou not a word of joy, some comfort, nurse? So she's like, my husband is alive on earth. Like, I've made my promises and my vows to heaven, and I can't get those promises back unless my husband sends them back to me from heaven because he dies. Give me some advice. Why is heaven playing tricks on me like this? Say something to me. And the nurse says, Faith, here it is. Romeo is banished, and all the world to nothing that he dares ne'er come back to challenge you. Or if he do, it needs to be by stealth. Then, since the case so stands as now it doth, I think it best you married with the county. Oh, he's a lovely gentleman. Romeo's a dish-clout to him, an eagle, madam, hath not so green, so quick, so fair an eye as Paris hath. Beshrew my very heart, I think you are happy in this second match, for it excels your first. Or if it did not, your first is dead, or 'twere as good as he were, as living here, and you no use of him. So she says, I'm going to tell you what I have to say. Romeo's been banished, and he's never coming back to you. Because if he does, he'll have to sneak back here. And honestly, since things are the way they were, I think it best that you marry Paris. Romeo's nothing compared to him. So, as much as I hate to say it, I think the second match is better for you. You're going to be happy. It's better than your first. And even if you don't think it is, your first marriage is over. Romeo's dead, or he might as well be dead because he's here and you have nothing you can do with it. So you don't get to enjoy it. And Juliet says, Speakest thou from thy heart? She's like, Do you mean what you're saying? And the nurse says, And from my soul too, or else beshrew them both. So she's like, Not only from my heart, but from my soul, or else curse them both. And Juliet kind of to herself says, Amen. So kind of the idea of saying, like, the nurse is saying, like, I mean this from my heart and my soul, and curse them both if I don't. And Juliet's like saying, Amen, absolutely, curse them both. And the nurse says, What? And Juliet says, Well, thou hast comforted me marvelous much. Go in and tell my lady I am gone, having displeased my father, to Lawrence's cell to make confession and to be absolved. So she's like, You've given me a lot of comfort. Go tell my mother that I'm gone. I've made my father angry, so I've went to Friar Lawrence's to confess my sins and be forgiven. She's essentially saying, Go tell my mother and father that they're right. I'm going to go confess my sins. And the nurse says, Mary, I will, and this is wisely done. So she's like, This is a very good idea. I will absolutely go tell them that. And the nurse leaves, leaving Juliet alone. And Juliet says, Ancient damnation, O most wicked fiend. It is more sin to wish me thus forsworn, or to dispraise my Lord with that same tongue which she hath praised him with above compare so many thousand times. Go, counselor, thou and thy bosom henceforth shall be twain. Out to the friar to know his remedy, or all else fail, myself have the power to die. So she's talking bad about the nurse, and she's like, You old lady, you damned old lady, you wicked person. Which the sin is worse? For her to tell me to break my vows of marriage, or with the same tongue to speak ill against Romeo when she's held him above compare in the past? Go on, nurse. Go tell him what I think, because you and your advice can go away, because we're separated. Thou and my bosom henceforth shall be twain. I'm never going to again tell you my true feelings. I'm going to go to Friar Lawrence and see what he can do about this. And if he can't do anything about it, then at least I'll have the power to kill myself. And she leaves. And that takes us out of scene 3, or act 3. So, things are going to start to move very quickly now. We're on Tuesday. This play only has about another day or so left to go. So Thursday, I believe, is when the play ends. So we're almost there. As far as your assignment, you got 2 pages today. Act 3, Scene 5. So we've got some information here. So what's the difference? Explain the significance. What's important about the nightingale and the lark from Scene 5. Summarize the action in 4 parts. So break down 4 parts, like the action, what happens in this scene, into 4 parts. Some questions here. Juliet has a premonition, a thought. She has a feeling before Romeo leaves. Write it again like it was something from her diary. Few things here. Dramatic irony. So dramatic irony is when we know something that some of the characters on the stage don't know. So that answers this question, and then you use that to answer this question. So are they good parents? Yes and no. Then some review questions for all of Act 3. So all 5 scenes in Act 3. So answer those questions, turn them back into me on Classroom, and we'll go from there. So I'm recording this on Wednesday. Tomorrow on Thursday at noon, I will have a Zoom meeting. I'll have Zoom open. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or even just want to stop in and say hi for a minute, go in. I'm going to do that every Thursday. That's my plan. So every Thursday at noon, and I'll post the information for Zoom on the website, on Classroom. All right, everybody. That's Act 3. We've only got 2 more. Stay safe.